This year's Taxslayer Bowl will be between the Louisville Cardinals and the Mississippi State Bulldogs on December 30th, 2017. The Cardinals are a 7-point favorite for this matchup in Jacksonville with an early kickoff. Bettors are down on Mississippi State in one of the most notable early line movements going into this one, with star quarterback Nick Fitzgerald out and Dan Mullen in Gainesville as the new head coach of the Florida Gators. Louisville has a chance at its third 9-win season under head coach Bobby Petrino. The Louisville Cardinals fly into this game at 8-4 straight up and 5-7 against the spread. The Cardinals had a tremendous offense with 39 points per game, but oddsmakers had a good feel on their totals as they were split down the middle at 6-6. Nobody really talked about Lamar Jackson this season, and that's a shame because he had another brilliant season. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner made a decent case for being the first repeat winner since Eddie George, but he didn't seem to get the same amount of love as Baker Mayfield or the running backs that were in the hunt. Jackson completed 60.4% of his throws with a 25-6 touchdown interception ratio. He also led the Cardinals in rushing by almost tripling the second leading rusher at 1,443 yards and 17 touchdowns on 208 attempts. Jackson wasn't as potent as last season when he ran for 1,571 yards and had 51 total touchdowns, but he did improve as a passer and may have improved his draft stock if he opts to leave. Big plays were the story for Louisville this season, with 6.6 yards per carry and 14.1 yards per reception. Overall, the Cardinals' offense was better than last season, with 7.6 yards per play, and was among the best in the country, with teams like UCF and Memphis. Nobody came close to Oklahoma, but Louisville was third in yards per play. The Cardinals' defense took a big step back, however. The loss of defensive coordinator Todd Grantham, who ironically was at Mississippi State until Mullen was hired at Florida, seemed to hurt, along with the losses of some key players. New defensive coordinator Peter Sermon was the defensive coordinator at Mississippi State, so it was basically a DC trade for the two schools. The Cardinals allowed 5.6 yards per play after allowing less than 5 yards per play in each of the last two seasons under Grantham. Louisville rush defense was a full yard per carry worse than last year, and the pass defense allowed more big plays. The Cardinals avoided Miami and Virginia Tech from the Coastal, and they still struggled to prevent big plays. The defense allowed 27.1 points per game, which was the most in the Petrino era, and also more than any other during the Charlie Strong era. In this matchup, though, Sermon should know the opposing personnel really well, and the Bulldogs no longer have Grantham to rely on against his former team. On the Mississippi State side, the Bulldogs also enter at 8-4 straight up, but they were better against the spread at 7-5. Of course, most of that came with Nick Fitzgerald at the helm. Keytaon Thompson was thrown into the fire with Nick Fitzgerald out of the picture, but these extra practices and this bowl game will be good for him going into the future. The true freshman is 21 of 46 for 261 yards with a couple of touchdowns and an interception. He has proven to be an effective runner with 48 carries for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns. He'll have a tough draw, though, against a very athletic Louisville defense in this game. It's hard to look at the overall numbers for Mississippi State and carry them over into this game because the offense is so much different with Keytaon Thompson instead of Fitzgerald. It weakens the stock of Aris Williams, who rushed for over 1,000 yards in the regular season. It also weakens the stock of the wide receivers. New head coach Joe Moorhead will likely run some practices with Thompson and have his eyes on the team from the press box. But the interim head coach is running backs coach Greg Knox. Mullen took his co-offensive coordinators with him to Gainesville, so the Bulldogs are operating at a pretty big deficiency in that regard in this game. Even with Nick Fitzgerald, Mississippi State averaged just 5.5 yards per play, but 5.2 yards per carry. As a result, the Bulldogs will rely heavily on the defense, much like they have done most of the season. The Bulldogs' defense was helped out tremendously by an offense that held the ball for an average of 33 minutes and 42 seconds. In the finale against Ole Miss, the Bulldogs had the ball for 37.5 minutes and ran 94 offensive plays, but found a way to lose because of turnovers. The defense will face a much stiffer test facing somebody like Lamar Jackson. The Bulldogs allowed only 3.7 yards per carry and held opposing quarterbacks to a 51.6% passing rate, which was easily the best number in the last 3 seasons. The Bulldogs will follow the same playbook and stick with the old DC systems before giving way to new DC Bob Shoop, but Louisville knows those schemes and practiced against them a lot over the last 2 seasons with Jackson at the helm. With Nick Fitzgerald, our number would have been around Louisville -2. Without him, this may not be a big enough adjustment, especially with the coaching situation at Mississippi State factored into the equation. The Bulldogs should be in good shape going forward with Moorhead, but the slate will be wiped clean after this game. Perhaps the players really like Greg Knox, but finding an answer for Lamar Jackson will not be easy. Our pick and prediction is for the Louisville Cardinals at -7. For our pick and prediction on this game and every other game this week, and a wealth of free stats and information, check out bangthebook.com.